Welcome to HB Reddit Stories. Today we will see stories of r/am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for bringing my daughter to a child-free wedding? Hi everyone. I'm a 19-year-old mom to my beautiful 2-year-old daughter, Amelia. Just a bit of backstory. Last year, I was asked to be a bridesmaid in a family friend's wedding. I was thrilled and immediately said yes, even though it was a child-free event. I had arranged for a babysitter, but about a week before the wedding, she informed me that she would no longer be in the city and couldn't watch my daughter. Given the short notice, I approached the bride and asked if I could bring Amelia to the wedding, as I didn't have time to find another trusted babysitter. My daughter is overall a very easygoing baby. She's comfortable with people and happy as long as she's fed. The bride knew this since she'd watched my daughter on multiple occasions before, and she happily agreed, saying that having Amelia there would make the wedding photos even more special. The wedding was going smoothly, though I noticed a few stares from the groom's parents. Amelia stayed with my sisters for most of the day, but during the reception, I took her with me to congratulate the couple. As I approached with Amelia in my arms, the groom's mother suddenly commented, "You shouldn't have brought a baby to a child-free wedding, especially when she doesn't fit the family." I was completely taken aback. For context, my daughter is mixed. I'm half white and half Hispanic, and her father is black. I've been called whitewashed because I'm not in contact with my Hispanic family, so I knew exactly what she meant by saying my daughter didn't fit the family. The bride looked shocked, and the groom immediately stood up and led his parents away. Taking this as my cue, I decided it was time to leave. I made the rounds to say goodbye to everyone and put Amelia in her stroller. As I was leaving, the bride came over to apologize for her in-laws' behavior. I was upset, but I knew it wasn't her fault, so I simply wished her luck and left. Now, about a week after the wedding, I got tagged in a Facebook post. Strange, because I don't use Facebook. The post read, "I'm outraged that my grandchildren weren't allowed at this event, but when a teen mother who couldn't be responsible enough to leave her child with the father brings her baby, it's perfectly fine." The post was from the groom's mother. To make things worse, she's also been telling family members that I'm lying about what she said regarding my daughter's appearance. So now I'm wondering, am I the a-hole? Update. Hi again, everyone. I first want to start off with a huge thank you for all the advice and reassurance. That said, before I go into this post, I've seen a few racist comments towards my daughter and remarks about my age and how I ruined my life. I am extremely happy and so is my daughter. She is beautiful and it is terrible that people in this world will take their self-hate out on a 2-year-old. Anyways, I wanted to give an update and clarify a few things after read on the feedback I received. First off, I do have a Facebook account, but I don't use it often. I only found out about the post because someone sent it to me on messages, which is how I saw the groom's mother's comments. Regarding Amelia's father, he couldn't take her that weekend because he lives a bit farther away and struggles when plans change last minute, especially when it's not his scheduled days to have her. On top of that, my family members who I would trust to watch Amelia were all attending the wedding, so there weren't many other options. Now, some of you mentioned I could have dropped out of the wedding, and I want to address that. Dropping out of the bridal party was actually the first option I presented to the bride when I realized I couldn't find a new babysitter. I didn't want to complicate her big day. However, she didn't want me to drop out and reassured me that it would be fine to bring Amelia. So while bringing my daughter was the second option, the bride did have the choice of me stepping down if she had preferred that. Yesterday, I spoke with the bride again, and she told me that she explained everything to her mother-in-law, making it clear that it wasn't my fault Amelia was there, it was a decision made between her and her husband. She also revealed the real reason behind the child-free rule. It wasn't directed at all kids. The bride had been trying to avoid having her mother-in-law's grandchildren there because they had been nightmares at other events, as described by the bride herself. The bride didn't want to cause any more drama by openly sharing that reason, so she kept it under the radar. I feel a lot better knowing that my friend still supports my decision, and I'm relieved that the real issue wasn't about me or Amelia. While I'll definitely be more cautious with similar situations in the future, I'm glad I prioritized Amelia's safety and well-being. Thanks again to everyone who shared their thoughts, I truly appreciate it. Top comments. NTA sounds like the groom's mother was upset by the no kids policy and wrongly took it out on you. It also sounds like the groom's mother is a dim-witted racist dingus. Oh, not the a-hole. I opened this thinking I might vote differently. It's not cool to just swan into a child-free wedding with a kid, but you had responsibly made arrangements that fell through, then correctly asked for permission to bring your daughter. That permission was generously given by the bride. It was not the groom's mother's place to decide who could and could not attend. Given the nasty things she said on that day, and the drama she's so determined to stir up online, it is very obvious that the groom's mom is the a-hole in this situation. You did your best in a rough situation. She, on the other hand, only seems able to do her worst. Not the a-hole. Bride said it was okay. And groom apparently agreed based on the fact he took his parents out of the situation. Those are the only two people who get a say. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents to not include my stepdaughter in their will? Throwaway account. I, 35F, have 2 kids, 17M/F twins, and 1 stepdaughter, 18, who I met when she was 11. The other day, I was at my parents' house going over some estate planning as I am the executor. While reviewing, I saw my folks had split their assets to be half for my 2 siblings and I and the other half for their grandkids, all to be distributed evenly. My stepdaughter was included. When I asked them about this, they said they wanted to be fair. Their estate isn't super large, but the sum would be substantial, think new car. I told my parents that while generous of them, I didn't think it would be necessary and would be better to split between their 5 grandkids. When we got home, my husband said he overheard what I said and that I was being an a-hole for alienating his daughter. I told him my reasoning was because she is the only child/grandchild/niece on both her parents' sides and that she would be set. Her grandparents own multiple properties, her uncles are fairly well off and live in a HCOL area, and well, she's the only kid and it's not looking like, at least in his side, that she'll have any cousins. Plus, their collective net worth is substantially more than my side. I also asked him if his parents included my kids in their estate, but he refused to answer. Still, he said I was being an a-hole and accused me of not caring about her future. I think I was doing the right thing by looking out for my kids and their cousins. Am I the a-hole? Edit, I was told to include this in the post. 1. I didn't argue with or pressure my parents to make a change. I simply mentioned that I don't feel it was necessary for her to receive a monetary amount. 2. My mom plans on giving her a set of family heirloom jewelry that is her birthstone. I think this is quite thoughtful. I'm not a big jewelry person and she has other sets for the other girls in the family, so I feel this is okay. 3. My parents have seen her about 3-5x a year since I met her. 4. My nephews and my kids do not have active relationships with their biological father sides. My niece is a new mom and works at a restaurant. I feel that financial inheritance would be more impactful for them even as such a small amount. 5. I know my SD is set to inherit at least 2 houses in a major US city with HCOL. I found this out a while back after my husband asked me to help him organize his office. I had to read through papers to know how to file them accordingly. The paper was a certified copy and was drafted soon after we married. My kids were not included. I am not sure if it has been updated. I did not ask him about it at the time because I did not have an issue with it. 6. There is distance in the relationship, but I don't feel it's my fault. I can explain this. When I met her mom for the first time, she made it very clear that I wasn't her mom. I didn't see this as an issue because I did not want to overstep, and as a mom myself, I could see where she was coming from and respected her request. But as time progressed, our opportunity to spend time together became less frequent. At first my husband had every other weekend visitation. It became less frequent as she became a teenager because she wanted to spend the night with friends, hang out, etc., which I see as normal teenager behavior. The other piece is that we were never invited to be included in major celebrations for her. We usually celebrated birthdays with her a week after because we weren't invited. My husband was just not us. She's also never spent Thanksgiving or Christmas with us because her mom wanted those days. Again, which I saw as fine because that's her only child. My husband would spend holidays with her at her mom's house, which I encouraged because I knew the importance of father/daughter connections. We also were not invited to her HS graduation. I think she's a beautiful and brilliant young woman and care for her tremendously. But it's challenging to develop deep, meaningful relationships with people you have little contact with. 7. For people putting me in the category of the evil stepmother, saying that I see her as other, don't think that I haven't been trying since the beginning. I include her in every way I can in the times that she is with us by doing things like teaching her my family recipes, taking her shopping for clothes so that she doesn't have to bring things back and forth, and attending every school athletic event that I could. I have tried to include her in family vacation planning, but was told by her mother that unless the vacation occurred on a weekend we're scheduled to have with her, then she would not allow us to have the time. This limited our options to local weekend trips, but even then, her mom comes up with some reason she can't join, including surprise trips to another state. I even suggested a family cruise in lieu of a honeymoon to celebrate our new family, but was blocked by her mom. My husband is allowed to take her on extended vacations as long as it's just the two of them. I have tried to be flexible in accommodations around holidays by postponing things like Christmas morning so that she can be included. This created frustration in my kids because they felt like they shouldn't have to put their lives aside to accommodate for her. One year when the holiday occurred on one of our planned weekends, I came up with the suggestion of celebrating Christmas on Christmas Eve so we could do the full family thing. My kids weren't thrilled, but they understood. In the end, we didn't end up spending any time with her as her mom told us that she planned on having a dinner party on Christmas Eve and needed my stepdaughter to help her prepare. When the time came for college applications, I was ecstatic to be asked by my stepdaughter to help her with the applications, but soon after was told that her mom hired a professional to help her get into her top choice schools and I was no longer needed. I have tried to have a bond with her with the little time that I have. I have consistently brought up to my husband that I feel like we needed more time with her to help build our relationship, at the very least by him maintaining his every other weekend schedule. He has told me that ultimately her mom is her mom and she determines her schedule and how she spends her time. He has also expressed that he fears that if he undermines her mom, then he might lose the time and relationship that he does have with her, and I do not want to be the reason for any sort of break in their relationship. His time/relationship with her hasn't changed, so maybe he doesn't see the need for me/my kids to be involved. But if he doesn't advocate for us, then what am I supposed to do? Update. I haven't had the opportunity to have a discussion with my husband about all of this, as I was waiting to speak with my therapist to get advice on the best way to approach the conversation. However, I did receive a phone call this morning from my father-in-law, who I see as an absolute angel of a man. Apparently, my husband told his mom about our argument and my mother-in-law went off, and this is how my father-in-law found out about it. Father-in-law asked me what my side of the story was and I very emotionally told him everything as I listed in the OP. I told him it was not my intention to alienate SD in any way and that this whole thing has created a nightmare. After deep breath and slight pause, my father-in-law said that I did the right thing. A few years ago, my father-in-law suffered a series of strokes. He said that this prompted him to want to reevaluate the estate to make sure that everything was in order. He is quite old, close to 90, and has a lot of underlying health issues. He and my mother-in-law share all of their assets and she is also his POA in case anything happens, and because they have a family trust, he wanted to include her and his sons in the discussion. He told me that he brought up that he wanted to include my children in the family trust. He told me he proposed to allow for 10% of the trust's liquid assets to be split between my two kids to help get a start on life. He then said that my mother-in-law pushed back very hard, saying that because my children were not biologically related to their family and they should not be considered. When he asked my husband his thoughts on it, father-in-law said my husband's response was that it was best to keep it in the family, but that he would consider including us in his portion upon his passing if he and I were still together. Father-in-law said this was a surprise because at that point we were still basically newlyweds and was surprised a new husband would even think that way. My MIL's response to that was unhappy, saying again we weren't blood and that this was a family issue. Because of the stress caused by the situation, and because of the recent strokes, father-in-law did not want to press things further. Father-in-law said afterwards, he pulled my husband aside to find out more about what he had meant and to be assured that my kids would be included, and was basically told by my husband that he would do what was best for his family, and the conversation was dropped. Now, father-in-law said that he didn't push further at this point because he was getting tired from the conversation. But in light of what's happening and how my mother-in-law and husband are responding behind closed doors, he felt it was necessary to let me know. He said that SD is set to be more than okay when it comes time, and that my husband has asked to tap into funds to pay for her college so she would not need to take out any loans, which he agreed to. He said he asked my husband if he would do the same for my kids and that my husband's response was that he would ask when the time came, as my kids did not yet know what was going to happen regarding college admissions. Father-in-law asked me if my husband and I had this conversation. I told him that my husband and I discussions about my kids' school was that they would need to take out loans, finish college, and then we would help pay off half of the loans together once they graduated. My husband has never suggested that anything for my kids' college would be paid for through his family trust. My father-in-law was very apologetic, saying he should have pushed further as he loves us greatly and feels like he did not do enough. I told him it was not his fault and that he should not feel responsible for any of this, and that I did not want him to feel obligated to make any changes or bring it up with mother-in-law/husband because I knew it would create additional stress for him and I wanted him to take care of his peace. He said though his desire would be to do so, that since his wife and he have a joint estate, and that she is POA, that he felt like it would be more trouble than it's worth. He is blind and has a lot of mobility issues, so anything he does he is dependent on her. He also said that based on what he's heard on his side, he felt if he did update his will, then they would likely contest it, which would create a financial burden on my end, and he didn't want to create a negative situation. I told him again that it was okay and that we would be okay in life and that he was not responsible for anything that happened. I told him that my intention wasn't to be added to the trust, just to make a point to my husband, to which he said he understood and agreed. He apologized again. We told each other how much we loved one another and he ended the call saying he considered me a person of integrity, which is a rare gem. Now that I have this information, I feel like this whole situation brought to light a lot of things I hadn't considered regarding my marriage. Also, writing out everything regarding how my husband navigated his relationship with his daughter/ex-wife really put things into perspective that makes me feel like we were never a priority for him. I'm not sure where to go from here. I plan to bring this all up with my therapist and talk it out to figure out what I should do. But I no longer feel like the a-hole for advocating for my biological family because my husband and his side have been advocating for theirs, father-in-law excluded. TLDR, told my parents I thought it wasn't necessary to include SD in their will because she's set to inherit a lot from my husband's family. Husband got pissed and said I was alienating his daughter. Later got a call from my father-in-law saying I wasn't the a-hole. Top comments. Not the a-hole. Everyone is in their feelings about it instead of looking at the actual facts. Your parents have 5 grandkids outside of her. Your parents can always leave her sentimental items. Your SD will get a large inheritance to herself. Your children aren't in your husband's parents' will. The last one being the biggest one. Why is it okay for them to exclude your children but not the reverse? We don't support the Hippocratic Oath here. OP replies. My mom plans on giving her a family heirloom jewelry set that is her birthstone, which I think is nice and thoughtful. It's not that I want to completely exclude her, I just feel it would be more meaningful towards my nibblings and kids. Not the a-hole. You stated your opinion and it doesn't sound like you pressured them. I think your parents are kind and it could be explained to your stepdaughter so her feelings wouldn't be hurt. Your husband needs to answer your question. Is your stepdaughter more important to him than his children with you? Does he not care about their future? If the stepdaughter's relatives' money was split with your children, it sounds like their future would be more secure. But, I think it would be unfair to expect her relatives to share with unrelated children, and I would think they would not want to do so. OP replies. I didn't pressure them. I just told them I didn't think it was necessary. I didn't even go into the details with them and left it at that. Nothing was changed over the course of our meeting. She's is also set to receive a family heirloom jewelry set from my mom that happened to be her birthstone, which I thought was nice. And I don't expect them to share their assets with my kids. It's only ever been brought up with my husband because of this argument. I know she's set to receive a large portion, including 2 houses, because I saw some paperwork while cleaning my husband's office. It's a bit out of date, so I don't know if there's been an update, but it was drafted and I saw it shortly after he and I got married. I didn't bring it up to him then because I didn't expect my kids to be included. I want to know if your daughter is included in his parents' will. He had nothing to say if they do not. Opie replies. I asked and he refused to tell me. I had seen some paperwork that was drafted after we got married a while back and my kids weren't on it while she had 2 houses listed. I didn't bring it up to him then because I didn't see it as an issue. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend I won't be inviting her out anymore? So my boyfriend tells me I'm not the a-hole, but I feel like I may be. So I, F23, have a friend I'll call Mary who's 22. She and I worked together and became friends. Well, this past Saturday, I invited her out with my friend group to go to a local amusement park that goes all out for Halloween. Mary asks if she can bring her kids, a 5-year-old boy and an 18-month-old girl. Everyone involved tells her it's really not a good idea as this park and its haunted attractions are not geared towards children and we're planning on being there until it closes, which is midnight. She seems to accept this but asks repeatedly throughout the week leading up to Saturday and she is again told no. Well, Saturday arrived and as you can guess, she brought her kids. Other people in our group asks her why and she just shrugged, saying she thought the kids would have fun. They didn't. Her son got scared within about 10 minutes of us getting into the park and began to cry, begging to go home, to which Mary tells him to calm down and he'll have fun eventually. We get in line for the first haunted house and her son again starts to cry, saying he doesn't want to go into the house. Mary then asks myself if I'll stay and watch her son and daughter so she can go into the haunted house. I tell her no and that this is why we told her not to bring her kids. She gets upset and drags her very scared child through the haunted house. He had a meltdown and had to be carried out. This repeats through every single haunted house we attempted to go through. Around 11:30, my boyfriend pulls me aside and tells me that he can't take any more of the screaming/crying and we try to break off to find a place to calm down. Mary sees this and leaves her son and daughter with us while she runs off to go on a ride. Her son gets scared by an actor chasing people with a chainsaw and has an epic meltdown. I'm doing the best I can to console him, but I am rapidly running out of patience. Finally his mom comes back and I all but shove her son back into her arms. I tell Mary that my boyfriend and I were leaving along with the rest of our group. She gets huffy but agreed. We leave the park and go to Waffle House for dinner. At this point it's midnight and both kids are extremely tired and upset. They cry all through dinner and Mary did nothing to calm them down. Finally, at the end of my rope, once we get out of the restaurant, I lose my temper. I tell Mary that this is why she was told not to bring her kids to this event and that I will not be inviting her back out again if she can't follow the rules of the group. Mary got upset and has since blocked me and the other people who agreed with me. No one in the group agreed with Mary, but they all did say that I didn't need to say anything about it to her and I didn't need to tell her I wasn't inviting her out again. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole and she's a crappy mom. Not the a-hole. They all did say that I didn't need to say anything about it to her and I didn't need to tell her I wasn't inviting her out again. If you and the others in the group don't say anything, what's to stop her from repeating this behavior? She might want to also put more consideration towards her children and other people she hangs out with, as opposed to putting her own wants first. Not the a-hole. Not only is Mary an inconsiderate friend, she's a cruel parent. Those poor kids. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I would have ditched Mary long before you did. I would have told her that you and your boyfriend are not going to be with a scared, screaming child all night and Mary deserves any nightmares those kids may have over the next few weeks because of her actions. And I most definitely would not have sat either her at the Waffle House. Those poor children. You said you were not going to invite her. You did not say no one else could. And I bet those sticking up for her will soon get tired of Mary bringing her children. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel HB Reddit Stories.